Hello, it's David Roylance here from Speak to Shine with another Speak to Shine show. Here we are. I, as you may or may not remember, am the Amazon best-selling author of Be Seen, Be Heard, Get Paid What You Are Worth, which I model to my immediate left for you today. And also, I help through my company, Speak to Shine, in particular, women shine when they speak so they can use that as a skill to earn significantly more money. Now, rather than just talk about me on the Speak to Shine show, I love to use this as an opportunity to bring in some brilliant people who I know, who've got amazing expertise, who I love sharing with my audience and my world. And so I've got two brilliant people in the studio with me today, Hilary Briggs, Sarah Jane Johnston, both of whom are experts in helping people live better lives beyond the possibilities that they thought possible, but in very different ways. And so I'm going to ask you both just to share. What is it that you are an expert in? What is it you do, and who do you do it for, Hilary?
Yes, so I help people to achieve things they didn't think they could do. And I get a kick out of doing things myself, which I didn't think I could do. So taking on all sorts of challenges. And I get an even bigger kick when I can help other people do things that they didn't think they could do.
Yeah, brilliant. And Sarah Jane?
I help my clients and the audiences that I reach to achieve their health, fitness and well-being goals. Yeah. So important to me. One of my heroes is Joseph Pilates, and he was so passionate about the movement of the body and mind, but also about what we put inside of our body, but not so much. He used to leave that to other experts. That's what I do.
Wonderful, wonderful. So how did you get into the world that you are in now? What's the journey to kind of bring you?
So I started out professionally. I trained as an engineer, did that at the University of Cambridge. I went in, I guess, a fairly traditional route into manufacturing industry. I was 10 years at Rover Group, as was at some other corporate roles. And I think during that time I had many work challenges to deal with. It led on... perhaps we can come back to that. But many challenges. And in the outdoors world, I've always loved long distance walking and things like that, and taking on challenges like doing Pennine Way in 10 days. So it's about 260 odd miles, 10 days carrying kit. It was like, how on earth could one do that? How to train to build up for something like that? And I love having that sort of challenge and breaking it down. And then a few years ago, I got into triathlon, and it was a similar approach. It seemed real challenge, and could I do it? Probably thinking ultimately doing an Ironman. That's what. Well, thank goodness I didn't start with that. But I've worked my way up, doing things which we can come to again. But yeah, it's a combination of things. I've just kind of gone with the flow.
Manufacturing
really.
And sport.
Yeah, I think what I love about both of them is you're having to engage reality. In the manufacturing world, you're either able to produce something or not. In sport, you either win a race or you don't, you achieve a certain time or performance. There's no room for the whiffle waffle pretending that I'm absolutely marvellous, because if you aren't, in my world, it's better to engage with the reality of where you are, however frustrating or painful that might be, but better to deal with that and then think, okay, I'm not as good as I want to be. What do I do about that? Who could help me? And when the brain is open and outward looking rather than just inward, how marvellous I am, I think to me, it doesn't guarantee you can achieve things, but you're in the right position.
Very good. Very good. Sarah Jane.
So my journey starts a little bit earlier on than Hilary's in terms of university. Mine starts as a 4-year-old. So I was a 4-year-old and my parents had to give up their double bed one summer. I was in that much agony that I could not stop rolling from side to side, curling up, stretching out. And I remember the GP coming round and saying, "Oh, it's grumbling appendix." Oh, okay, it's grumbling appendix. Yeah, she'll grow out of this. It's fine. She'll probably be in pain for about 6 weeks, but 6 weeks holiday, she'll be fine when she goes back to school in September. And the following year, same happened. And I remember this clearly for about 3 years. And every summer, it was just something that happened to me. And when I got to, can't really remember what kind of happened between probably the ages of 7 to 9. I think I was just busy living life and being a child. And when I got to 12 years old, still in pain. And my problem was that every time I went to the doctors and you laid on the bed and they poked your table, I would laugh. So they didn't believe I was in pain. It was like, well, seriously? But I just didn't like being tickled. So I got to the age where I could walk up to the GPs myself. So I think I was 12 and I was told, "Oh, you've got irritable bowel syndrome." Oh, okay. Well, I watch enough news round and BBC News and whatever else to know that that's the trendy thing to have at the moment. And I don't take on labels. There's something else that's not right with me. But it was IBS. And then I got to a point of leaving school and going straight into work. And I was eating my lunch and passing out on the retail shop floor. And the window cleaner once said, "Oh, you've got anemia. You need to have liver and bacon in your life." I quite like liver and bacon. So I remember my grandfather and granny used to doing that on a Saturday. But there was something that wasn't right. And I've always been very sporty, joined a gym when I was 16 and sometimes just couldn't make myself get through a class. I just had such compacted pain, but nobody could find anything. So then I bought my own house at this point and had some money in my back pocket. I was just 19. I was at the hairdresser's and he said, "Oh, we've got a nutrition person upstairs." I was thinking, upstairs? Do you not get waxed upstairs in a hair salon? But this word nutritionalist was gifted to me and I went home, looked in the local yellow pages back in the day and found a nutritionist. And after seeing this gentleman for 2.5 months, he was convinced at first it was dairy, give up dairy, come back. And I did. And I said, "Hey, I feel okay." "No, you should feel amazing." And he said it's got to be wheat. And this is why I say now what I do with my clients. I gave up wheat and I felt frigging awesome. I could go to a gym class. I could complete it. I had my life back. So now I say that I work with my clients to make you, and one of my programs is called Feeling Awesome.
So almost like being a Sherlock Holmes of food.
Yes. Yes, I am.
And
or Poirot.
Or Poirot. You can be Poirot if you
Thank
like.
you.
Absolutely. And so that's a fascinating story around, I mean, you were in so much pain as a child. Were you in constant pain to the point that you didn't know what it was like to not be in pain at all? Or
I think I got used to living with it, and that's what I want. Don't want for my clients is you don't have to live with it. You know, and people say, "I've got irritable bowel syndrome." The word irritable, you know, as a business owner, if something's irritating me or I wake up with something on my mind and I'm not happy with it, I shake it off. So it's, for me, it's around people living with labels. And I suppose I did live with labels because I was a 4-year-old, a 12-year-old, 19-year-old. I didn't know how to seek help. So now what I do for my clients is I ask them to seek the help that I can give them so that these syndromes are no longer there. They don't have to be suffering in the way that they do.
Yes. Amazing. I'm so glad that you found that answer so that you can be able to do what you do and be here with us today. And that sounds like a pretty challenging kind of time for you, Sarah Jane, that you've been through to be here. I would love to know professionally, I suppose, what are the biggest challenges that you've ever had to face, where you feel you've made the biggest difference?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. The one that immediately springs to mind is I was managing director of a car component company in Germany, of all things, about 4 factories, producing car door and window seals for all the major brands, Volkswagen, BMW and so on. And I got a panic phone call one Sunday. I happened to be back in London, and the panic phone call went along the lines in German that, factory 4 is on fire. I was like, oh my goodness. Well, I've got a flight booked. I was leaving fairly soon anyway. Get out there at 10 o'clock at night. I could smell it from 6 kilometres away. Oh. It was, fortunately, no one was injured. It was a smouldering ruin. And I'd had the flight to sort of do a bit of a brain dump in terms of how on earth are we going to sort our ways out of this. And it was a lot of work to look at, which customers were we supposed to be supplying with what, when, how else could we produce. And after a few days' effort, it came down to we had to get 3 production lines, which fortunately were only badly damaged. By that, they'd been underwater from all the foam and water from putting the fire out. The roof was damaged and all sorts, but at least there was a roof. They weren't crushed and burnt to bits. But we had, the fire happened on a Sunday. We had by the following Sunday, 5 p.m, we had to get those going. Otherwise, we'd stop Audi. And the total value of business for all the companies we were supplying was about £400 million a day, something like that. So it was big stuff. We were working away, but something, it just didn't feel it was progressing as I would have expected. And so one evening, I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday, I thought I'm going to go home relatively early, probably 7 o'clock in the evening. I came back into the factory at 1 a.m. I'd had experience in my early career of night shift manager. I arrived at 1 o'clock. We were supposed to have, we'd allocated around to have 24-hour cover of management to make sure things. Fritz was supposed to be there, management, no sign of Fritz. So I phone up, have his home number. He answers the phone. So what are you doing there? You should be here. And I think, he came in, but I spent the rest of the night walking around, and I think my experience of night shift, of just engaging with people, my German was a long way from being perfect, but it was good enough to engage with, all sorts of shop floor people who were moving bits of kit and doing things. And that was the turning point that we got back on track, and we did get things going with about half an hour to spare.
Well, I was wondering how close to the wire you.
I think probably it's a Fergie, isn't it? And a man from Audi was definitely in squeaky bum time, but we got him going. So So I think I learned a lot from that in terms of, in a crisis, being able to focus on something. It naturally grabs attention, and whatever else you thought was important is out the way. So I think it's a good lesson, and that's stuck with me. When you really have to focus, it's unbelievable what you can achieve. And you don't know the answers, but actually with a team, and somehow just working your way through things. I think it's going from that point of, oh my goodness, I don't know where to start with this. There's so much, and actually, how do you get to the point where it's maybe a lot of work, but at least you're progressing, and then you can make a decision. And I think from my early career, a lot. I talk now on overcoming overwhelm, and it's some of the tips that I've learned the hard way that took me through that.
And do you feel that the things that you learnt with that challenge are kind of transferable to almost anything as a challenge?
Absolutely. I think that overcome overwhelm. The steps that I learned, and I would highly recommend to anyone that feeling, if the body's telling you whether you're feeling stressed, you're not sleeping well, whatever, first thing is do a mind dump onto a small piece of paper or even a flip chart, if that's the scale of the problem. Get all the thoughts that are worrying you and all the things you think you need to do, get it out of the head. And then test each item. Would the world stop if I didn't do that? Really? Might be damage, could be financial, reputation, or whatever, but would the world really stop? Would somebody die? In most cases, probably not. And then, who's it for? What standard they need it? So really test out. And I've found a situation where you actually pick the phone up to somebody. Would it be all right if we slip that 2 weeks? And the normal response is like, oh, thank goodness, yeah, we're struggling here. And so all that worry I could have had of myself, it's like, it's not there. But actually, once you've prioritised and got maybe 3 or 4 things, you think, no, I really need to do this. It's then breaking it down into 5-minute chunks. And here's the killer phrase, 5 minutes a day, doing something to make tomorrow better. And that might be 1 phone call, 1 email, maybe just put a timer on for 5 minutes. And if you don't get 5 minutes in a day, and it can happen, no loss, don't beat yourself up. Tomorrow's another day, dust yourself down, go again. And if you can do that 5 minutes a day, it builds, and over a period of 3 months or something, it's amazing what you can do.
Yes. And I know that from some of the business owners who I have worked with, who, when they've come to me, they've got a day job, and so they're struggling to find those 5 minutes. I recognize what you're saying from.
And I think I would add that what I found at the time, it's you can start doing things, but actually it's the feeling that goes with it. When it feels like you're in a washing machine and you're just being spun round, it's horrible. And I find, at least, I feel really out of control, and it's uncomfortable at best. But the minute you start doing something, even if it's a tiny one action, it's that sense, I'm doing something, I'm in control here, at least part of it. That switch mentally and in the emotion, I think that's probably the biggest thing that makes the difference.
Super. Thank you so much for sharing. Sarah Jane, professionally, biggest challenge. I know your personal challenges you've already shared, but you...
So I spent 23 years in the events industry, and there was many challenges that have been transferable skills into what I do with my clients now. And probably leadership and reframing I can't do, and having conversations with people around how, as you've just said, it's the small changes. So I might talk about a gentleman that I had where I met him, I knew of him while he was still in hospital recovering from a heart attack, and having been told in hospital that he got type 2 diabetes. And it was actually through a network group that I belonged to, and it was in lockdown, and everybody was saying, where's this gentleman? And I was like, I don't know who this person is, but he's clearly not here. I felt very concerned for him. And he came back and started to hear my 30-second who I'd like to work with. And thought, could Sarah Jane be my solution? And so I had a conversation with him. We were definitely matched to work with each other. I was delighted to work with him. Type 2 diabetes is something that I love to nurture people around, making small changes that can be so impactful and can lead them back to getting their life back the way I got my life back once I knew what was causing me all the issues. They've got themselves stuck somehow, maybe knowingly through bad eating habits, but it's not something that they intentionally do. It's just life, and like I wasn't intentionally poisoning myself with wheat, neither were my parents. Yeah. So, and I think I have to break down barriers, because people come with, I need to crash diet. I need to have all the branded products that are on the shelves, and I need to do this and I need to do that because social media tells me, the TV tells me, and my best friend tells me. And as the nutrition expert, I have to sometimes reframe the conversations or say, well, actually, this is why, and produce evidence as to why a branded product is okay, but actually you're getting about 3% of the good stuff. And actually, if we found a really good herb list for you, you could get so much more. Or actually just trying to change the balance of the dietary intake, getting the right fats and proteins working together so you optimally taking in what you need. Hippocrates always said you are what you eat. I believe you are what you digest. And I'll come to that in one of my top 10 tips, or top 3 tips I'm going to share this afternoon.
Oh, you tease.
So, but what I absolutely love is that because I naturally gravitate to clients of similar age of mine, so 40 upwards, I'm not disclosing my age, I'm 50, but I tend to be working with the household. So this particular gentleman, his son had got to 12 years old, and he was like, oh, what's all this fruit and nuts that are appearing in the house? And his wife had always produced lovely food. So and having these consultations, it was like breaking down the social media's barrier, what TV tells you, and building up that trust. My clients have trust in me because they've said, yes, we're a match to work with each other. But then there is that trust that, he isn't in danger of having a heart attack again, or he's in the best position not to. We are reversing his type 2 diabetes, and the gentleman did reverse his type 2 diabetes. So it's fantastic. But I sometimes battle with best friends or somebody nipping in the ear, that little voice of, because they don't know me.
Is that the thing that frustrates you the most? Yes,
mainly women, because they talk a lot. Their best friend says, you're only getting me to eat this because, okay. or my PT says there's no way I'm going to be able to get this much protein in my diet. So I've brought a protein shake. Oh, okay. And how is that for you? It's blooming awful. It's gone in the bin. Okay. So that's another £25 that person's wasted.
Yeah.
The lady that says, I know what I need to do. On Monday morning, I'm going to limit my alcohol intake. I'm not going to have crisps in my drawer at work. I'm going to refrain from chocolate. I'm going to start going to the gym. Whoa, hold on a second, because that's never going to happen. And whether you're going to absolutely despise me right now, but I'm going to tell you that Monday morning is never going to happen, because as Hilary said, it's around making small changes. So I work with my clients to say, what's the most important thing for you? Take that one thing, start with that. Once that's become a change and a habit change, a reframing conversation with yourself, then let's move on to the next thing. And that's where I use my discovery program and the first part of my 3-step system, which is to identify for them what's going on, not what they think's going on, but what is actually going on, and how we then work through the rest of the 3-step system.
Amazing. And one of the things that I've found out a lot about recently that really frustrates me is just how much of an industry it is to keep people ill or unwell. And how much, let's say, I know people in my extended family who spend a lot of money with a weekly meeting around slimming without naming names, which I know is a system that is designed to keep people hooked on the system rather than a system that's about getting people well. So I hear you and your frustration.
And that's why I am trained to work with groups and individuals. I won't work with groups, because all it takes is that one crab in the bucket to pull the others back down. And I can't control that. So I work with the people that I can have the ultimate impact on, and their families around them. Just very quickly as well with Nigel. So he brought his son to the networking event about a year later, and his son came over to me and said, "Thank you for saving my dad's life." And that was like, wow. And that's when I really realised, that yes, I am helping people achieve their health, fitness and wellbeing goals.
So for the sake of people who are listening, who might not get the reference to a crab in a bucket, can you share with us what you mean by that?
Yeah, so a single crab in a bucket can get itself out. Put multiple crabs in a bucket and they just want to be around each other. They feel safe. And once one person wants to make a change, or one crab wants to make a change, I want to go and explore another bucket. I want to change my life myself. That the others go, "No, we want you. Please don't change." So they pull the crab down. That's how I understand it.
Yes, it's absolutely. And crabs won't they? They'll bring the other crab back to the point that they'll actually cut off claws. They'll cut off claws and legs to keep that bucket, that crab in the bucket safe with them. Now, Hilary, does that resonate as an image for you in any of the worlds that you have been part of?
Yeah, I think actually people can hold themselves back.
Yeah.
So from, I alluded earlier about triathlon, and that's something, I started as a challenge. I guess the sort of a crunch turning point in that journey was getting my Achilles wrecked. Long story, but I managed to do such a...
We're here to tell stories,
yes,
though. So,
well,
Hilary,
such a long
let us-
story on that. I made such a good job of it. They had to replace it. It was an 18-month recovery. That taught me the discipline of how to deal with it. But again, long story short, just 2 months ago, I won silver medal in the World Championship of Triathlon standard distance in my age group. I was absolutely thrilled to bits. To represent Team GB. It was the second year I'd been competing at that level. But I think from that, understanding how on earth I went from low-grade amateur, which is where I was when I started in my mid-50s, to that in 7 years, it's actually the three key elements of motivation and understanding what's important about whatever you do, then taking action. And I think what Sarah Jane said, you've got to figure out, do something. She said getting the feedback from that, measurement, that then not only reinforces the motivation, but also informs what action to take next. And I think what can happen is if people don't have that motivation there, they're keeping themselves in the bucket because it's like, oh, I should be doing this, I should be, and they're just going around rather than stepping back. If something's not working, if you take an action and you've decided, actually, I'm not that bothered about it, that's fine. Go find something that you do care about and start getting yourself out of the bucket. So I think, people hold themselves back.
I think one of the key things that I ask on a client on an onboarding conversation is there anybody in your world who you might be nervous or who might be nervous that you're going to make changes? Because sometimes it is the person that's the barrier for themselves, but sometimes it's not. And often I work with people in their 50s that it's their father, it's their auntie that are still their role models.
Oh, I totally get that.
So it really opened my eyes to kind of adults. I suppose I was so young, 19, making impactful changes that transformed me. So one of the things that I have to be is open and aware of what's going on for my clients, as well as motivating, inspiring them. I have to be aware of what's going on for them and what they may not be telling me.
Yes. I had a client once who she had an amazingly powerful voice that she was hiding. We revealed this powerful voice and she said, I can't deal with this. I couldn't take this home to my husband. He wouldn't know who I am. And so there's so many stories that maybe we tell ourselves about how we're seen by others and then use that as an excuse to not move forward. So we don't have a great deal of time left. So I'd like Sarah Jane, share that tip that you hinted at earlier.
My biggest tip is eat rested, because our fight and flight and digestion are on the same central nervous system. So if you don't eat rested and you're stressing over the day or you're frantically working at your laptop still, you're not going to digest your food properly, and that can cause all sorts of different problems.
Thank you. Hilary, one tip.
I think I'll repeat what I said, 5 minutes a day, doing something to make tomorrow better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, what does 2024 hold for the pair of you?
I'm kicking off. I'm doing a TEDx talk in January, which I'm really thrilled about. It's on my theme of improve beyond expectations. And I'm building on that material in all sorts of ways, lunch and learn sessions, working with individuals, businesses, business owners in particular, to help their businesses and themselves achieve things they didn't think they could.
Excellent. That's in Nottingham, isn't it?
The TEDx is in Nottingham, 18th of January.
18th of January. And people can buy tickets, people can come
People
and
can buy
see
tickets,
you?
Actually, probably best if people connect with me on LinkedIn, Hilary Briggs. I'm the triathlete speaker and consultant.
Yes.
Not only can you see about the TEDx, but also be delighted to have a half-hour discovery call with anyone, see what we can do.
Superb. And Sarah Jane, for you?
For me, it's continuing doing the talks that I do in the workplaces. So I kick off January with a nutrition workshop for a aggregates business in Derbyshire, and then continuing working with my awesome type 2 diabetic people, gestational diabetes and post-heart attack, because they are the people that I can save from not not ending their life.
Yes. And what's the easiest methodology of getting in touch with you? If someone's listening and went, oh, I need to talk to Sarah Jane.
I think go to my website, evolution34.com. My phone number's on there. Pick up the phone and have a conversation, or fill out a contact form, and I'll get in touch with you. Booking a discovery call. It's about a conversation. If we're not a match to work with each other, you will be sent off with some information of who and how I can get you moving forward.
Thank you. And thank you both. Thank you both for sharing everything that you have today and for your amazing achievements. Well done. This is David Roylance at the Speak to Shine show. I hope you've enjoyed our time today. Thank you very much. See you soon.